Sheikh Aboud Rogo was driving Monday morning before he was killed. Rogo was heading to hospital in the company of his wife and daughter when gunmen opened fire, killing him instantly.
Amemnunua risasi karibu 15 na ile gari yenyewe yenye imefanya kitu kama hichi akijaonekana kabisa.
Halo la kufanya hama katika nchi hii. Hama, ndugu zako wakuita, watakupa silaha, watakupa mafunzo. Ukitaka mke watakupa, ukitaka riziki watakupa. Hama.
They were targeted, identified and eliminated in front of their families.
We don't arrest. We never. We are sharpshooters.
As the world watched in silence while Israel unleashed terror on Palestinians, somewhere in the peaceful gardens of Jannah, a Kenyan Sheikh was surely shaking his head in disappointment. That man was Aboud Rogo. Born in 1968 in the quiet village of Siu on Pate Islands in Lamu, from those humble beginnings, Aboud Rogo grew into a bold and fearless imam whose fiery sermons echoed far beyond the Kenyan coast. His words stirred crowds, challenged systems, and soon caught the attention of powerful forces, even America. But with his rise came controversy. He was branded an Islamist extremist. Accusations followed him that he was secretly funding the deadly Al-Shabaab militia in Somalia. Now, whether those claims were true or just mere propaganda, one thing was certain. Aboud Rogo had become a man both feared and unforgettable. This is Shadows of Justice, where we tell crime stories from far and beyond. Most of the materials used in this video will be blurred for obvious reasons. Find the uncensored images and full clips on our Telegram channel, first link in description. Thanks to all of your support. Our goal this year is to hit 20k subscribers, and with your help, we know we can make that happen. Like and subscribe to keep up with our latest uploads. I am Micah Hindi, and you're awesome. Aboud Rogo's journey as an imam began at the Kisauni Islamic Institute. It was here that he built the foundation of his faith. Now, even though he later dropped out due to financial struggles, to survive, he ventured into the fish business, selling fish by day while leading prayers at a local mosque by night. But Rogo was never just an ordinary man. What set him apart was his deep interest in politics, something most religious leaders avoided. This fire was lit by his teacher, Sheikh Abdul Remo, a bold cleric who found himself in court back in 1990 for openly declaring that the government should be overthrown. Under Remo's influence, Rogo learned that religion was not just about prayers. It was also about power, resistance, and speaking truth to authority. The arrest of his teacher became a turning point in Aboud Rogo's life. Fueled by anger and passion, he joined the Islamic Party of Kenya as a youth activist, and in 1992 he contested for a councillor seat, but unfortunately he lost. That loss, however, didn't break him. Instead, it pushed him to shift his battlefield from political rallies to the mosque pulpit, a space where he knew no one could challenge him. From there, Rogo unleashed fiery sermons, painting a future world ruled only by Muslims. His words drew in crowds, but they also attracted dangerous friends. Among them was Fazul Mohammed, the mastermind behind the 1998 US embassy bombings in Nairobi and Tanzania. Rogo didn't just know Fazul, he helped him settle in Kenya by finding him a wife. Then came 28 November 2002, a dark day in Kenya's history. Fazul led two brutal attacks targeting Israel. One was the bombing of Kikambala Parasite Hotel, where suicide bombers and car explosives killed 15 innocent people, a chilling sign of how far Rogo's circle of influence had reached. The second attack on that fateful day was even more daring. As an Israeli charter plane, a Kia Boeing 757-300 took off from Mombasa, attackers fired surface-to-air missiles, aiming to bring down the aircraft. Miraculously, they missed. The plane, carrying over 200 passengers, escaped what would have been a devastating tragedy. These shocking events threw Aboud Rogo straight into the national spotlight, and in 2003, he was arrested and charged with murder over the deadly bombings. Alongside several others, Rogo faced 13 counts of murder with no plea deal on the table. He was rolled straight into community maximum prison, where he sat behind bars for over 2 years. But in a dramatic twist, on 9th June 2005, the court set him free. Why? The prosecution had failed to link him directly to the suicide bombers. Rogo walked out of committee with his head high, unshaken, unbothered, and perhaps even more determined than ever. And after his release, Aboud returned to the only place he felt untouchable, the mosque pulpit. He picked up right where he left, preaching the word of Allah with even more fire. But this time, his message was sharper, bolder, and more dangerous. He openly declared that the Islam practiced in Kenya was watered down, a joke compared to the true faith.
Mbona watu hawatetei mwizi akatwe mkono? Kwa sababu huu Uislamu tulionao sio ule wa Rasulullah. Na hatusemi kubembeleza sisi, twasema ule ukweli. Na Uislamu ni ukweli. Usiwe na hamu ya kumridhisha mwanadamu, kuwa na hamu umridhishe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
According to Rogo, Muslims needed to return to their roots. His sermons burnt with anger towards America and its government.
Sheikh, kumwa Amerika yafaa? Naam, yafaa. Yafaa sana tena. Usimshauri yoyote katika kuwa wa Amerika. Subhanallah. Wao wafurahia kuwa watoto wetu. Utakapoyasikia yaliyopitika Afghanistan, subhanallah, Iraq,
who he branded as the greatest enemies of Islam. But his rage didn't stop there. He turned his fury towards the Kenyan government too, slamming them for overtaxing citizens and oppressing the poor.
Ni amani upigwe risasi, huliigwa risasi, lakini wafakwa njaa na kifo kile kile. Kisha ni amani gani unayoambiwa kwamba tuishi kwa amani na kafiri akudhulumu kila asubuhi? Sukari Kismayu sasa hivi ni shilingi 30 kwa kilo au 25. Uko kwenye vita ni shilingi 30 au 25.
To Rogo, there was only one escape: Somalia, a land he described as free, pure, and bearable for any true Muslim. And from his pulpit, he urged his followers to leave Kenya behind and seek refuge in the land of the Mujahideen.
la kufanya, hama katika nchi hii. Hama. Ndugu zako wakuita, watakupa silaha, watakupa mafunzo. Ukitaka mke watakupa, ukitaka riziki watakupa. Hama. Na usifikirie mtu akienda Somalia kwa bunduki ingia. Urongo bwana. Utatiwa kwenye klasi ufundishwe tauhid, utatiwa kwenye klasi ufundishwe bunduki, utatiwa kwenye klasi ufundishwe RPG, silaha moja moja mpaka uzijue, kisha ufundishwe ni nani unayefaa kumuua, ni nani usiyefaa kumuua, ni nani aitwa Muislamu, ni nani haitwi Muislamu, ni nani aitwa hivi, ni nani yafanywa hivi. Utafundishwa ahkam, utafundishwa silaha.
When the Kenyan government extradited suspects believed to be behind the deadly July 2010 Kampala twin bombings, an attack that killed over 70 people watching the World Cup final, Aboud Rogo erupted in anger. To him, this was just pure cowardice, a betrayal of fellow Muslims. But the moment that truly ignited his fire came in October 2011. President Mwai Kibaki launched Operation Linda Nchi, sending Kenyan troops across the border into Somalia to fight the Al-Shabaab militia. Rogo saw this as a call to arms, and from his pulpit, he began rallying Kenyan Muslims, urging them to stand with the Al-Shabaab. He warned them not to believe the government's propaganda about the terror group, and instead, he painted Somalia as a safe haven, a place where Muslims would be welcomed, protected, and even celebrated by Al-Shabaab fighters. His words echoed across mosques, pulling in both followers and enemies, setting the stage for what will become a dangerous final chapter in his life. Aboud Rogo knew he was a marked man, but that didn't stop him. He continued to warn young men not to listen to other Muslim leaders who called him out for misleading the youth. Now, to him, these other sheikhs were weak, men who didn't understand the true meaning of jihad. But the walls were closing in, and on January 29, 2012, the government made their move. Rogo was arrested at his home in Kikambala. Inside, police found hand grenades and explosive materials, solid proof that he was not just preaching radical ideas, but actively recruiting and arming for Al-Shabaab. The media exploded with reports linking him directly to the terror group. Things got worse. The US government sanctioned Rogo and two of his close allies, labeling them Al-Shabaab sympathizers. Weeks later, the UN Security Council added his name to the list of individuals supporting terrorism. That was the final nail in his coffin, and Rogo knew it. In his last sermon, his tone changed. He prepared his loyal followers for what he believed was inevitable, his death. The government was hunting him down, and the clock was ticking.
Kwa hivyo musione ubaya kushambuliwa Aboud Rogo. Ndugu zangu Waislamu, nataka niwape kaida moja. Aboud Rogo dini si yake, dini ni ya Allah. Aboud Rogo hakubeba dini, dini imekuja kwenye Qur'an. Kweli urongo?
True to his word, death caught up with Aboud Rogo. On the morning of August 27, 2012, while driving through Mombasa with his family, Rogo's life came to a brutal end. A known gunman sprayed his car with bullets in what looked like a near-perfect drive-by shooting. His wife, seated next to him, was injured but survived. The seats were left stained with blood. The man who had shaken governments was gone. News of his assassination spread like wildfires across international media outlets. But back in Mombasa, his death lit a fire among his loyal followers, especially the youth who worship at Masjid Musa, his stronghold. Chaos broke out. Angry mobs took to the streets, they torched a church, burned vehicles, and clashed with police in violent protest, furious over what they believed was an extrajudicial killing by the state. In the days that followed, Rogo's family, especially his firstborn son, claimed they began receiving chilling threats from security officers, warnings that the shadow of his legacy was far from over.
Wao sasa wanatafuta one chance, wataka kunimaliza. Hiyo kitu mimi naijua kwenye akili yangu. Kama yani hata kama si leo ikipita miaka mimi namuomba Mungu anihifadhi, lakini najua iko siku atakuja kunimaliza. Waliniambia mara mwisho mimi na wewe sisi na wewe tutamalizana kwa field kama mzee.
A name soon surfaced in the mystery surrounding his death. Samantha Lithwaite, famously known as the White Widow, a British-born terror suspect linked to Al-Shabaab. She was mentioned as a possible figure behind the killings. But like many things in Rogo's life, this too remained unsolved. No arrests were ever made. His story ended in bullets, but his legend, both feared and revered, lived it on in whispers across the coast. Aboud Rogo's life was a story of faith, rebellion, and controversy, a man who rose from a humble imam to one of Kenya's most wanted figures. To his followers, he was a fearless defender of Islam. To the government, he was a dangerous extremist fueling terror. His death may have silenced his voice, but it sparked a wave of anger, fear, and unanswered questions that still linger to this day. His legacy remains deeply divided, seen by some as a martyr and by others as a radical who led many young men down a dark path. One thing is certain though, Aboud Rogo's story is a chilling reminder of how far ideas, when mixed with power and influence, can travel, even beyond the grave. Nairobi Insight.